Well, good evening, America, and this is Q News Tonight, the world's first live LGBT daily evening news, and it is time to queer up the news. We begin in breaking Q News, an exciting new announcement at an amazing new digital television show that is coming for the LGBT community called Gay Town Hall, advertising you participate in the LGBTQ debate. This show will focus on the big topics of the day that are of interest to the LGBTQ community. More than a dozen hosts, including celebrities, famous influencers, drag queens, writers, and authors, a college professor who identifies as a communist, a famous White House visiting gay Trumpster, artists, all segments representing the L, the G, the B, the T, and the Q community. A famous porn star, a famous underwear model, a Miccosukee Native American, and more. The show will premiere at 8:30 p.m. on Thursday, July 2nd, and it's alive. Best of all, America, world, you get to participate. The chat is moderated and interesting thread posts are moved right into the screen for hosts and guests to discuss. Best of all, America, you are allowed to log in and be on camera with the host and participate in the debate and the discussion. Nothing like this has been done nationally ever before in the LGBTQ community, and it's really very exciting. Over the next 2 weeks, all of the hosts will be introduced to you. And tonight we introduce you to the third announcement. Host Jay Phoenix. Jay is a drag entertainer and a super involved cannabis advocate. Welcome, Jay.
Thank you for welcoming me. How are you guys?
Oh, we're really happy for you to be here at Q News tonight. A drag queen with a beard. I think I saw that on Eurovision. Is that the kind of performer you are?
No, I am not. I've just taken a break from drag to pursue, a husband in Nebraska. So, I did that thing where I left Florida for a guy.
Wait, Jay, you're currently in Nebraska?
I am.
Wait, I didn't know that there were LGBT people in Nebraska.
There is. It's a small community, believe it or not. It's just more capitalized in Omaha, the capital of the state.
Oh, okay. And it read in your bio, and I've heard lots about you behind the scenes, being a cannabis advocate. What's that all about?
Well, I strongly have a really passionate view for cannabis. I think that the example that Colorado has set in terms of taxpayers, all that money that's increasing revenue. Right now, in this situation with the coronavirus, a lot of people are running out of funds, loans, and all that could have been taxed. If it was equal in all states, it could help so many diseases, help many communities, help the economy. That's really the real picture at the end of the day, the economy.
America, it's very interesting to me, this new show called Gay Town Hall has many different perspectives, like Jay's. He's going to bring this face and personality and being a cannabis advocate. There's all kinds of different personalities in the LGBT community that are going to interact with each other. Jay, what's your feelings about having this opportunity and what you're getting ready to tell America and the world?
Well, with this entire cast, we have different perspectives, like you said. We have all different views and opinions. But right now, we need that. We need that education that we're able to give to each other and be in one room. Right now, a lot of people feel that they cannot be in one room with other people of different races, different skin color, different sexual orientations, and different political parties. So I feel this show is necessary to shed light on other things that other people may not know about. Imagine you have people who are focused on, say, political issues right now. But what about the issues in communities? There's other things that we're going to bring to the show, and there's just so much excitement. and there's going to be a lot of debates.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of debate. Jay, we're really glad to be able to introduce you. We're going to put up that slide again. I'm very excited because I wasn't clear that Jay was in Nebraska. He's going to be like a beacon, a lighthouse in Nebraska saying, come out, wherever you are, just like Glenda did in The Wizard of Oz. So that's going to be a great experience.
Jay, having my in 6 more weeks. I'll be back in Miami in 6 more weeks. Back
home. I see. All right. So you're going to get out of Nebraska. All right. So for those first 6 weeks, we are going to help to get people to come out with you. Jay, we're really excited. I can't wait to watch you in a Gay Town Hall premiering July 2nd. This is the third announcement. IML, the first trans person of color, is a host. And we've also announced Matthew Sackman as the moderator. And over the next 2 weeks, you're going to meet a lot of interesting guys and girls and others, everything in between. So, Jay, thank you very much for being with us tonight at Q News Tonight.
Thanks so much.
We continue in Breaking Q News tonight by reporting that Facebook has blocked the Trump campaign ad for symbols. Facebook on Thursday said it removed campaign posts and advertisements from the Trump campaign featuring an upside-down red triangle symbol, once used by the Nazis to identify political opponents. A pink triangle meant gay and a black triangle meant lesbian. Our policy prohibits using a banned hate group's symbol to identify political prisoners without the context of the condemns or discusses symbol, a Facebook spokesman said today. Some prisoners in Nazi concentration camps were identified with colored inverted triangles sewn onto uniforms to allow SS guards to identify the alleged grounds for being detained, according to the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum. This is the first time that Facebook has content managed a sponsored ad from the Trump campaign. The Trump campaign responded by drawing a lighthearted comparison to the red triangle symbol. This is just an emoji, they said. So, good evening, America. It is 7 p.m. Thursday, June 18, 2020, and it is time to queer up the news. We are literally, as you can already tell, out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your stories we are going to tell tonight, this evening, on Q News Tonight. Tonight on the world's first live daily queer evening news show.
Tonight's news about the gay community and the news from an LGBTQ perspective. Are our gay stories important to you? In headlines, politics, entertainment, gay culture, travel, religion, and more. Reported by respected anchors.
Out of the closet and into the headlines on Q News Tonight. Thank you for joining Q News Tonight. We are live. This is a live show, so anything can happen. Tonight we bring you the news of and a perspective from the LGBTQ community. I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and this is my co-guest anchor, Misty Eyes, and co-guest anchor, David Hopkins. We remind you tonight, it's Thursday, so we're going to do our special segment on Q's Q&A, the LGBT community's question and answer on coronavirus with Dr. Howard Grossman. Let's queer up the news. Tonight we bring you the Q Queer headlines. The LGBTQ community in America is certainly diverse. The LGBTQ community around the world is vast. So we bring you the bullet points of the queer news for today, Thursday, June 18th, 2020. We begin by queering up the USA. Friday is Juneteenth, the day the last slaves were announced as free. Friday is a national holiday not everyone may be aware of, as it marks the day Texas announced federal orders that previously enslaved people were now free, as Texas was the most remote state of the former Confederacy. It has been hard for America to come to grips with the racial divisions that still run deep to this day, and for the lack of reparations for descendants of slaves, to the protests that are now ongoing about institutional racism in the police forces across this country. It is an important day, though, as it is very easy to come to the conclusion that although President Lincoln declared everyone in our country free, there still remain too many shackled by invisible chains in our society.
Now, I paid attention in American history, so I had heard of this holiday, although it used to be more commonly called Emancipation Day. But that being said, our president decided to make an announcement today that no one knew about it until he had planned his rally for it. So now he's made the holiday famous, which makes me sick.
Lots of things about our president make me sick. I am not surprised. I've also known about this holiday for a long time. I am a resident, went to college in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and there's a lot of history with Juneteenth and things there. But I'm not surprised Texas was the last state to free their slaves, honestly, and I think that things are still happening.
I think David's point is really the bullet point. Tomorrow is a very important day to a very significant percentage of the population of the United States. And our president said, "You're not important, I am." And that's disappointing. So I hope tomorrow is a successful celebration of emancipation.
Next week, we're at the USA talking about the Trump campaign as it gears up for a massive rally in Tulsa. Watch this.
More years, come on everybody, more years, come on everybody, more years. Woo! There will be another USA, freedom for the combat, give it away. It's time to vote, it's time to pray. Join everyone, let me hear you say, love Trump, 2020, love Trump, 2020, love Trump, 2020, love Trump. Keep America great. Keep America great.
In addition to that musical number, news broke just this morning that Brandon Straka, an ardent gay Trump supporter and leader of the hashtag Walkaway movement that has urged gay Democrats to switch to being Republicans, was thrown off a plane for refusing to wear a mask on his way to Trump's Tulsa rally this weekend. A fellow passenger is quoted as saying, quote, "There is currently a mutiny on my flight to Tulsa because a guy is refusing to wear a mask and the flight can't take off. There may be no better way to describe what is about to happen in Tulsa this weekend than this story."
You know, it's sad that our safety and self-care has become political. That's quite disgusting to me.
I'm unclear how 19,000 people are going to get in an arena on Saturday night and not dramatically violate CDC guidelines, and the other 81,000 tickets that have been issued in other remote sites. We probably are watching a ticking time bomb from Saturday.
Yeah, I can't imagine that most of those people are going to be using the masks that the Trump campaign plans on handing out, if they even do that.
Now we queer up entertainment. Bruce Springsteen tells Trump to put a fucking mask on. The boss is on fire. Bruce Springsteen kicked off the latest episode of his Sirius XM show, From My Home to Yours, with a scathing message for the country's leaders, and specifically President Donald Trump. The icon is quoted as saying, "With 100,000 plus Americans dying over the last few months and the empty, shamed response from our leaders, I'm simply pissed off. Those lives deserve better than just being inconvenient statistics for our president's re-election efforts. It's a national disgrace." When asked why he didn't wear a mask after touring a Ford manufacturing plant in May, Trump responded, "I didn't want to give the press the pleasure of seeing it." This is an action against CDC guidelines.
I love your impression of Donald Trump, and what Springsteen said, I think, is true. Put on a fucking mask. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, there's nothing else to add to that. The boss is right.
The boss is right. Respect yourself, protect yourself. Look at the numbers.
We queer up the USA by reporting Trump's America has led to 91% of LGBTQ teens in America have been bullied. Nearly every LGBTQ teenager in the United States has been bullied, according to a new research study. The study published on Monday in the American Journal of Preventive Medicine reports that 91% of adolescents in this demographic was the target of at least one instance of bias-based bullying. This whopping figure is more than double previous estimates. Bullying can lead to adverse impacts on health, including heightened stress, depression, sleep disorders, and unhealthy weight, the study warned. It also associated with an increased risk of suicide.
I was not bullied for being gay because I was in the closet until after I graduated from high school. I was bullied for being overweight, for being in advanced classes, and many other things, and I did try to commit suicide multiple times, so I can relate to a lot of these kids.
I was bullied as well, and I can relate to these children. But what's sad is that so many people are following our amazing leader right now. And even during his campaign, before he was elected president, my sister's a teacher, and her next class over is a Latino woman, and the kids were like, "We don't have to listen to you, you're Mexican." It's disgusting.
We have had an amazing week in the LGBTQ community with the Supreme Court and two substantive decisions. Attitudes toward the LGBT community have changed dramatically among American opinion. Our next battleground is in schools, and that's where we must focus next when you hear a statistic of 91%.
We Queer Up the USA with the Supreme Court ruling against Trump's ending of DACA. The Supreme Court on Thursday blocked the Trump administration's attempt to end the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, an Obama-era program that protects hundreds of thousands of immigrants brought to the U.S. as children from deportation. The 5-4 ruling was written by Chief Justice John Roberts and joined by Justices Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Elena Kagan, Stephen Breyer, and Sonia Sotomayor. In penning the opinion, Roberts once again sided with the liberals on the bench in a momentous dispute that will infuriate the judicial conservatives who are still bitter that he once provided the deciding vote to uphold Obamacare.
I think this is an amazing story. I do not think we should send children that were raised in this country back to somewhere they have no connection to. But it's a little too early to cheer just yet because it has not been made official.
Well, the issue that I think is incredibly important for America and the LGBT community is our president, his reaction and his tweets today. First, he tweeted, quote, "Horribly and politically charged decisions made at the Supreme Court are shotgun blasts at the American people." He specifically chose that word to reference a dog whistle in terms of gun rights. He tweeted separately, "We need more justices," a dog whistle to re-elect him so he can change the Supreme Court. And then he texted, "Do you get the impression that the Supreme Court doesn't like me? So instead of thinking about the 600,000 children, the Supreme Court's decision was all about him."
Which is typical of him. And the Supreme Court has not said that the DACA kids are in the clear, as Misty mentioned. They said that if he goes back and actually follows judicial procedure, he can pass this through, but he had not done so in this case.
Now we queer up entertainment. L Word Trio begin new Pants podcast. In a new podcast, Pants, the L Words Leisha, Haley, and Kate Moaning share the origin story behind their 18-year-old friendship and their early days working on the Benchmark series. The podcast is edited by their friend and fellow former castmate Rachel Shelley. During the witty and engaging 30-minute podcast, the women who played Alice and Shane, and who are executive producers on the reboot of the L Word, Generation Q, recall the audition process and the moment they first became aware of each other in the room. Although Moaning had seen Haley in the 1997 queer-themed film All Over Me.
We queer up the USA in reporting a Colorado state trooper killed a trans woman. Then the state police told the media he had shot a man. Jane Thompson was shot and killed by a Colorado State Patrol trooper last month, but it took until this week before it was disclosed that the officer had killed a transgendered woman. For weeks, the Colorado State Police and local media misgendered her and said a man had been shot. When Trooper Jason Wade arrived on the scene, Thompson began to act aggressively with an approximate 10-inch knife, according to the police report. The trooper was not injured. The death has been ruled a homicide, but no charges have yet been filed at this time.
Next week, Queer Up the USA, log cabin Republican who stood against Equality Act to join Trump administration. Gregory Angelo, a 41-year-old who served as executive director and president of Log Cabin Republicans from 2013 to 2018, has become the spokesperson for the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy. The office oversees the president's international and domestic anti-drug efforts and is headed by a director known as the Drug Czar. While the White House confirmed Angelo's new role as the ONDCP's spokesperson, Gregory himself has not yet publicly commented on his new job.
Next week, Queer Up Entertainment. Dolly Parton and Nina West team up for Kindness is Queen collection. The Dolly Parton and Nina West Kindness is Queen collection was announced today. The capsule consists of a t-shirt, an enamel pin, and a tote bag. The 3 items will be sold for a limited amount of time, and proceeds from the collection will go to Dolly Parton's Imagination Library and Nina West Foundation, which supports LGBTQ youth and families. Dolly Parton has partnered with drag queens in the past and has made no secret how flattered she is that she is often imitated.
We queer up religion this evening by reporting black and openly gay bishop has been ordained by Missouri's Episcopalians. The Right Reverend Dion Kevin Johnson has become the 11th bishop of the Episcopal Diocese of Missouri, making him the first openly gay black man to hold the post in the diocese's 179-year history. An immigrant from Barbados, Johnson has been an Episcopal priest since 2003. He was most recently rector of St. Paul's Episcopal Church in Brighton, Michigan. In the week following the killing of George Floyd by police in Minneapolis, Johnson joined in peaceful protest in the St. Louis region.
Next week, Queer Up Entertainment. RuPaul's Drag Race queens are coming to drive-in theaters for the summer. Acid Betty, Aquaria, Asia O'Hara, Gigi Good, Cameron Michaels, Kim Chi, Monet Exchange, Naomi Smalls, Plastique, Vanessa Miss Vanjie Mateo, Violet Chachki, and Evie Oddly are sashaying to drive-in theaters where they will perform live on stage with their sickening routines broadcast on the theater's giant screens. Sounds from the stage will be pumped through every car via FM transmitters. The outdoor summer concert series will hold court July 17th through 19th at the Garden State Plaza in Paramus, New Jersey, and July 24th through 26th in Los Angeles. Multiple shows will run all weekend long from 12 p.m. to 11 p.m., and tickets are available now.
Tonight, let's catch up on all of the news surrounding COVID-19 with our quarantine quickies. We remind you that we're going to do Q's Q&A tonight of questions that you have for our medical expert, Dr. Howard Grossman. The first story is our daily reporting of the coronavirus facts, especially important to the LGBT community. We begin by reporting on coronavirus case numbers. Based on standard acceptance of 7% of population of the LGBT community, the world's LGBT COVID-19 cases stand today at 594,314, while America's LGBT COVID-19 cases stand at 157,038. We remind you that America is ground zero of the pandemic. The USA is just 4.4% of the world's population, and today America is 26.4% of all of the cases in the world. Next, we report on coronavirus deaths. The world's LGBTQ COVID-19 deaths stand at 31,671, while America's LGBTQ COVID-19 deaths stand at 8,407. The USA is 26.5% of all of the world's deaths. Next is testing facts. As of today, we have 26,309,000 tests taken. As a result, Q News Tonight recognizes our Hall of Fame top states in testing, which as of today is number 3, New Mexico, number 2, New York, and number 1 continues to be Rhode Island. Unfortunately, we also recognize our Hall of Shame states, the states that are doing the worst job in testing, and LGBT America, we continue to note, we hope you don't live in one of these states, which are today number 5, Kansas, number 4, Colorado, number 3, Oregon, number 2, Idaho, and number 1 continues to be Puerto Rico.
Quarantine quickies. COVID cases spike across the country as experts say Florida may be next epicenter. Watch this.
Now to the latest on the coronavirus pandemic. Cases spiked to single-day pandemic highs statewide. According to the Florida Department of Health, there are now more than nearly 86,000 cases of COVID-19 in Florida. That's an increase of more than 3,200 cases since yesterday. Deaths in the state are now at 3,061. Since yesterday in Miami-Dade County, there have been an additional 581 cases. There are now more than 10,000 cases in Broward, 299 more since yesterday, and there have been 9 additional cases reported in Monroe County.
10 states saw a record number of new COVID-19 cases this week, and one of them could be the next epicenter of the pandemic. Florida reported 3,207 additional coronavirus cases on Thursday, the largest single-day count in the state since the pandemic, according to the Florida Department of Health. Florida's total reported cases climbed to nearly 86,000, according to data released by the state. The Sunshine State has all the markings of the next large epicenter of coronavirus transmission and risks being the worst it has ever been, according to Wednesday's projections from a model and study by scientists at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia and the University of Philadelphia. The study suggested that Florida could become an epicenter greater than seen in New York.
This story to me is super scary, but obviously realistic. If we are not abiding by guidelines and we are just leaving our houses and doing whatever we choose, we're going to get affected.
This is science. The University of Pennsylvania is making a projection that Florida, and saying specifically, could be an epicenter greater than what we saw in New York. That should bring a complete stop to all of us to evaluate how well the governor and the state of Florida is doing in their opening measures.
Sadly, a lot of people think that just because things are starting to reopen, that it's over and they don't have to take precautions, which is not the case at all.
Absolutely. Next, we have quarantine quickies. New jobless claims reach past 1 million for 13th straight week. Watch this.
Initial jobless claims, 1.508 million, so 1,508,000. That, of course, is less than our last look, which is 1,542,000, and that got upgraded, unfortunately, to 1.566 million. So it is the 11th week in a row that jobless claims are down on the initial, and a week in arrears continuing claims, 20,544,000. So 20.544 million, and that follows 20.606 million, which was the revision, and that, of course, is a bit lower than the original number, which was a bit over 20,900,000.
Weekly jobless claims stayed above 1 million for the 13th consecutive week as the coronavirus pandemic continued to hammer the U.S. economy. First-time claims totaled 1.5 million last week, higher than the 1.3 million that economists surveyed by Dow Jones had been expecting. The elevated claims number persists even as the states have reopened to varying degrees, and non-farm payrolls grew by 2.5 million in May. Before the coronavirus, the record for a single week was 695,000 in September of 1982.
That last sentence that Misty just did in the story is breathtaking. For 40 years, our highest number was 680-some thousand unemployed in a given week. And we have just reported for 13 consecutive weeks, we have been double that compared to the statistics of 40 years ago. It's breathtaking.
And even though our numbers have been decreasing the past 11 weeks on new filings, we also have to remember that we're over 1.5 million. That's with a decrease. And some states, like Florida, still haven't even processed half of their filings from March.
The sad thing is this all could have been avoided or at least minimized. We had the warning signs that COVID was coming and we did nothing.
Yeah, mitigation. I'm sure Dr. Grossman is going to lecture us again on this fact tonight. And gladly, we're going to hear it again. We queue up our segment called Good News next. After we finish our quarantine quickies, we like to lighten it up a little. We've reported all of the statistics and the facts for today, but now we want to report on something that made us smile today in Good News.
Good news. Thomas Roberts launches Gay Good News on Facebook Live. We like to think we inspire others, and today it becomes obvious that we have. Thomas Roberts has decided to launch his own program called Gay Good News on Facebook, and we here at Q News Tonight love to see it. Naturally, this is the very definition of good news. Watch this.
Our world really needs a morale boost. Plus, I need something to lift my own spirits. Maybe you do too. And it's June Pride. I'm Thomas Roberts. This is Gay Good News. How do you like that for an open? Pretty good, right? We are on a really interesting moment in time right now where I could do this from home, and I wanted to do it, so it's great to be with you. Hi, everybody. I'm Thomas Roberts, and you are live from my in-bedroom studio right now as we embark on this whole new journey together for GGN, which is Gay Good News. So welcome aboard, as I see a lot of people signing on for the first time, and for our very first show. It's really an exciting time because we are doing something we've never done before, which is kind of produce and report on content exclusively about the gay community for June Pride. Because as you know, there's a lot of things going on in the world right now that have kind of excluded June Pride celebrations, which, is pretty sad, but it doesn't have to be. So we can take this platform and we can run with it and we can celebrate things like anniversaries or marriage proposals or anything that you think.
We love that, Thomas Roberts, and we love you. You're super sexy, and we appreciate your broadcasts. And if you'd like to join us, we are broadcasting live from the World AIDS Museum here in the Wilton Manors in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
We joke. We're coming from the gayest place on planet Earth.
We'd also like to thank our set designer, Concepto Modern Living, here in Fort Lauderdale, for making this set in this living museum possible.
Tonight is part 14 of Q's Q&A on coronavirus and the LGBTQ community, June 18th. This special segment is designed to be unique in America to answer your questions about coronavirus for the LGBTQ community during this pandemic.
Tonight we have an American pioneer in AIDS/HIV medical treatment, Dr. Howard Grossman, specialist in internal medicine with an emphasis on HIV. He was the executive director of the American Academy of HIV Medicine. He's become nationally recognized as an educator on HIV issues and as an advocate for LGBT civil rights and our rights of our community.
And most important of all, he has become our medical expert during pandemic for Q News Tonight. Welcome, Dr. Grossman. And as always, before we get into viewer questions, it's been another big week in coronavirus, especially in our home here in South Florida and Florida in general. From a science and medical community standpoint, before we take questions, I just want to ask, what's on your mind this week about COVID-19?
Well, you may notice, Al, that I have a mask around my neck because, and even though you and I have tested antibody positive and probably have a certain level of immunity, I think this is the biggest message that I want to start with. I'll echo the boss. Wear the fucking mask. And, everybody's got to do it. I remind people, though, that it takes a long time to change a social norm. And it takes a lot of effort by a lot of people. When HIV first started and people started talking about wearing gloves to draw blood, you should have heard them scream in the hospitals. It took 2 years to get people, something we can't even believe that people wouldn't use gloves to draw blood at this point, took years to get through the medical society's mind. People were like, I can't draw blood, I'll never feel the vein. I mean, it takes time, and people need to be vigilant and stick with it. But so I would say that's my biggest message. I think we had some good news this week about the use of dexamethasone, a corticosteroid, a steroid drug, in patients who are hospitalized and sick. And I think it just goes to the fact that this is a two-phase disease. The first phase is virologic, so you get flu-like symptoms because of the virus. After 9 days, you cannot find infectious virus in a COVID-19 patient. But then people get better for a day or two, they feel a little bit better, and then they get slammed with the immunologic phase of the disease where their own body is attacking itself. And that's what's killing people, because that is when every organ system gets attacked by the immune system because it's been set up by COVID-19. And that's, you know, so steroid, any kind of immunosuppressant is going to be hopefully useful in that period. We had seen a small study weeks ago that used interleukin-6, and interleukin-6 is a drug we use in multiple sclerosis, also to suppress an overactive immune system.
We reported, I remind you, America, we reported last night in Q News Tonight in Montgomery, Alabama, medical professionals spoke before the City Commission in making a mask a mandatory situation in Montgomery. They're in epidemic right now in the city of Montgomery, Alabama. They voted it down to make mask mandatory, but a brand new study was quoted yesterday in that masks were 95% effective in blocking transmission of COVID-19, which is what Dr. Grossman has just
And we've been
recommended.
saying for weeks, keep the message simple. It's all about the mask.
Yeah, all about the mask. Before we move into viewer questions, we always begin Q's Q&A on coronavirus for the LGBT community by asking what's happened over the last week in terms of how we've done. So again this week, Dr. Grossman, what letter grade would you give America this week?
Well, I think as we've been talking, you have to divide America into multiple parts. I think there are significant numbers of Americans who are taking this to heart, who realize we're in a pandemic and who are doing the right thing. And those people I give an A to. I think when you see the governor of New York, you know, talk about don't make me come down there when he sees bars that are violating the rules, you know, that's what we need. And then you have a significant number of people who just don't get it at all, and who are out there wearing masks. And I think, you know, we have to realize that when this thing first hit, it hit in very specific places very strongly. So over half, more than that, of cases were in the Northeast, New Orleans, Seattle, and everything shut down. So in areas like here in Florida, very, very few people were testing positive over the last, you know, month or two. I've been doing a lot of testing. And then everything opened up and people were like, well, I didn't see anything happen. My friends weren't infected. Most of the deaths were in nursing homes here, which only affected those families, and was kept rather invisible by our governor. And so now they come out, they're all crowding into the bars, no masks, you know, and we see this enormous increase in cases.
So an A for the people that are wearing masks. How about our government? What's the letter grade you would give our government?
Given that the president is still saying it's going to disappear, you know, there isn't even a letter grade for that. You know, there's a prison sentence for that.
Ooh. Okay. All right. Well,
murderer. He's a murderer.
Let's jump right into the questions that we have from viewers this week. David, let's
start
with you.
Our first viewer question kind of goes with that. It is, what are your thoughts on Brandon Straka refusing to wear a mask on an airplane?
Oh, I watched his video. What an idiot. I mean, he should be, you know, United Airlines announced today that if people refuse to wear masks, they're going to be placed on a no-fly list. They will not be able to fly on United ever again.
Wow.
And that is the kind of punishment that's necessary. And his idiocy, not wearing a mask, you know, he's a media whore and he's looking for hits. But, you know, that's just plain stupidity. But hopefully he'll get infected at the Trump rally. And then he'll sit there and go, oh, my God, how long has this been going on?
No, surprise, there's a disease.
Yeah.
Another viewer asked, what is your assessment of dexamethasone for treating COVID infections?
Well, that's what I was talking about before. The idea that you're using something that's suppressing that overactive immune responses definitely has a place in treatment. And it was good to see a study that proved that.
Good.
Another viewer asks, with the latest peaks in COVID statistics, is it safe to go about in public?
I think it's very safe to go about in public, but with certain precautions. You wear a mask when you're in crowds. What we've seen with the protests is they are not driving the epidemic because almost everybody was wearing masks and they were passing out hand sanitizer all over the place. My niece has been going to protests in New York at Gracie Mansion, and she's able to sit actually 6 feet apart from other people in that space. So I think we've seen good demonstration from those protests that you can be in larger crowd as long as you're masked and being careful. But, you know, even that is pushing it a bit.
Dr. Grossman, help me understand your observation there. This question, can you go out in public? I mean, that's as broad as a question as you can get. We thank the viewer for the question. But your answer is so succinct. What's the, from a medical perspective, what's the disconnect? You can go out in public, but just go out in public safely. What's the disconnect? Why are we not understanding what you're saying from medical recommendations?
Well, because I certainly blame this on the media and on the government, because what they've been putting out are very complicated messages that people just throw up their hands and they can't follow. And I use again the example of the HIV epidemic. Most of the world put out two simple messages: don't have intercourse without a condom and don't share needles. And their infection rates were much lower than ours, where we were worried about HIV on tabletops and what if somebody breathes in the same air, and we were worried. There were so many guidelines that people just threw their arms up.
So
and gave
simplicity is the answer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
In
great.
public health messages, it has to be really simple. And the bottom line is that masks work. If you look at Japan,
95%.
everybody is masks. Have you seen what the Japanese subways look like, where they're shoving people in? But everybody's masked, and their infection rates are tiny.
Yeah.
Wow, that's good.
95% effective.
Right.
Okay, Misty.
Another viewer asks, at the rate we are going, do you think the first wave will end before 2021 in America?
Well, I would highly doubt it, but I mean, this, you know, there was a flattening of the curve, and that was the first wave. And it, you know, but since, certainly since June 1st, we're seeing an explosion. I mean, here in Florida, at the end of May, daily testing revealed about 2.5% to 3.5% of positive results. As of June 13th, it was about 5.6. Today, it was 12.5% positives. My boss works about 2 hours north of here. In that county where he's in, they had about 20 total cases over the months of since the pandemic. Last week, he admitted 150 patients to the hospital. Okay, that's St. Lucie County. That's a very much rural county, lots of farm workers, lots of poor people. And this is what's happening because these are the places that aren't using masks. You use the example of Montgomery. Palm Beach County here refused to mandate using masks. Now here in Broward County, where we are in Fort Lauderdale, you have to wear a mask. And I encourage people to report those places that aren't requiring people to wear masks. If you go to a restaurant and they are not following the rules, call. Here in Broward, we call 311. We call the county, report it. You can report it anonymously, and they will investigate it.
That's very interesting. I didn't know that either. And America, we want to remind you on something that is widely being circulated that we discussed and we proved was not true. The president, in whatever level of respect of the office of President of the United States, he continues to say that the reason why our numbers seem and appear so high is because of the amount of testing we're doing in the United States compared to the rest of the world. We gave examples of Russia, of Britain, of Spain, and even Brazil, where testing numbers in those Western European countries and Russia was dramatically higher in percentage than the United States. and their COVID cases were fractional compared to percentage of the United States. Testing has nothing to do with infection rate.
And remember, Al, testing doesn't put people in the hospital.
Yes, exactly.
Sick people put people in the hospital.
That's exactly
and
right.
our ICU beds are filling up, the same in Arizona, the same in Texas, the same in Arkansas. It's happening all over mostly the red states, but also in California. But let's remember, California has significant red areas, so Orange County is one of the worst areas.
And how, in the next week, in the next 14 days, how red is the city of Tulsa, Oklahoma going to be? David, we have a very strange question that I'm not familiar with.
This is another user question. How does a nanosponge work, and how might that work against COVID? And I'm going to add, what is a nanosponge? Because it sounds like an IUD.
It does, doesn't it? But I actually had to look this up when you guys sent me the question, because there was an article this week of research that's looking at a nanosponge is a biodegradable microscopic particle that is coated with some human cell membranes. So the whole idea is that this virus attaches to receptors on our cellular membranes. If you could flood the system with these biodegradable particles that would absorb as much of the virus as possible so that it couldn't then infect as many cells, that maybe you could clear some of it out of the system. So it's an interesting concept. You know, nanotechnology is in its infancy.
It sounds very Star Trek-ish to me.
Exactly.
Still confused.
Or Terminator. It sounds like the Terminator.
So it's like sending little magnets into your blood to suck them up.
Exactly.
That's exactly the image that you need.
And Misty, we're just talking
I'm
about-
still trying to think of nano sponges. A viewer did ask, what can essential workers do to protect their immune systems or increase their ability to fight off the virus?
It's all about protective equipment. It's really not about improving your immune system, although, you know, people need to get enough sleep, and healthcare workers are not. They need to make sure that mentally they are prepared to do it. So many healthcare workers have PTSD at this point from the first wave in places like New York and Boston and places like that. And now we're seeing this increase in cases. There were a couple of hundred cases of new infection at the VA in Miami reported today. We had 260, these are not healthcare workers, but 260 airport workers in Orlando, a major transit hub, tested positive. You know, but the biggest thing is protective equipment, and that's what we need. And I'm really afraid we're going to run out of it, because I have to say, I found out last week, there is no factory in the United States that makes the blue nitrile gloves that we all wear on our hands. None, not one factory. They had the last 6 months to build a factory in this country, but we haven't. And gowns are still in very, very short supply.
I want to echo an observation that you've made repeatedly. Again, I'm very sad that it's been 13 weeks in a row. Your employment here, which is for zero, is guaranteed apparently forever. I had lunch at a restaurant today, did a fantastic job in dealing with COVID-19 issues. And I asked the server my interest in terms of how the server felt, in terms of the safety of the interaction with the guests that were coming to the restaurant. And she said it was good and that she was satisfied and she felt safe. Then she threw away an addition. And I'm taking lots of vitamin C, so I know it's great. A comment on the personal protection, mask, sanitizer versus taking vitamin C or homeopathic alternatives.
Well, I mean, you know, I'm not going to poo-poo vitamins, but, you know, there isn't a lot of evidence on a lot of that stuff. If it makes people feel comfortable, as long as they're not taking toxic doses, it's good.
Yeah, okay. And David, we're going to move into...
Yeah, another viewer asked, are there any new insights about the nature of the virus?
Well, I think, you know, it's becoming very clear again that we have this two-phase of the virus, and the second phase may actually go on longer. So we're starting to see people who were sick 2 months ago who still have symptoms, whether it's skin lesions or neuropathy, you know, pins and needles and sensations in the feet or the hands, you know, chronic fatigue. I mean, we're seeing a lot of sequelae to having been for people who have been sick. So that's still rolling out. You know, I don't think there's been, I haven't seen much else this week that's
okay.
really told us.
And
Me? I thought you had a feedback. Another viewer asks, with myths and misinformation spreading on social media, where are safe and trusted sources for people to get their facts?
Well, I always look at places like Medscape, Mayo Clinic. If you look at some of the journal reports, you know, but peer-reviewed journals. Remember, lots of the news that we're seeing is being posted without peer review, without being reviewed by other professionals, without the statistics being verified by looking at the data. So you really need to look for peer-reviewed studies for some validity.
Two related questions to this. This week, very close to my house and only about a mile from where we're broadcasting here in Wilton Manors, there's a Quest Diagnostics in a strip center. I noticed in going to the gym, which was in the same plaza, there were at least 100 people outside that were waiting in line to be tested. Are they being tested for COVID or antibodies, or what do you think that was of having so many people in line at Quest?
Well, we have gotten informed by Quest that there are delays in some of our other labs, like getting viral loads on people with HIV, because they're using the PCR machines for testing. So they assume that much of it is for acute infection. I have many patients who've wanted to be tested, and generally, if they want to have the swab stuck up their nose and into their nasopharynx, then we'll do it. But for the most part, people really need to find out if they've already been infected. Because I think if it's a negative test, people will double down on protecting themselves. If it's a positive test, hopefully they'll still wear the mask in public, because again, we're creating a social norm. We don't know how long antibodies might be protective.
Right.
But they can relax a little bit.
And actually, to that point, my second question, Chef Josie, as you know, Dr. Grossman was very involved with both of me. He identified I was asymptomatic and didn't even know it. I have the antibodies now. Chef Josie, we told the story here, tested negative, was in quarantine for 40 days, tested negative again, and Dr. Grossman,
positive.
Positive. I got that backwards, completely got it backwards, positive twice. And Dr. Grossman helped untangle that of what actually happened in terms of the matter remains of COVID. Right. People Magazine is running an article this week that they shared that alarmed Chef Josie dramatically, of a woman that tested positive for coronavirus after 4 months, being tested positive in February, but now in June has tested positive again. It was not until you read a very extensive article at the end that they come to the exact same conclusion that you come to in the headline, which is, this is likely not true, which is what the article concluded. But the headline suggested that coronavirus was reinfecting. What is behind the need of media to blow a dog whistle like that just to confuse us?
As one of my friends calls it, terror porn, and that we see it on TV, especially on cable news all the time. You know, they're looking to grab eyeballs. Remember, it's about hits. And, you know, unfortunately, that's the way advertising budgets are made. That's you know, all of that stuff. So People Magazine is looking to draw eyeballs. They're going to do the most outrageous headlines. And it's the same on TV. So I think that's part of what's been so frustrating. Because to me, on cable news, I don't need to know about every 20 cases or every little thing that happens in the country, but I need to see a discussion of what do we do? What creative solutions? Like the restaurant you went to today, how are they processing silverware? So that other restaurants can think the same thing. Like the barber who hung up shower curtains between a low-tech, low-cost solution between his chairs to lower cross-infection.
Yeah. Where I go to get my haircut, they did that.
We need to have that discussion.
Yeah, and David, let's end our Q's Q&A tonight by focusing on the top news for us here in South Florida and the gayest place on planet Earth.
Yeah, it is
South
something
Florida.
we've hit on already in this discussion earlier, but straight to the point, a viewer has asked, do you believe Florida is going to be the next hotbed for COVID-19?
Oh, it's a competition between Florida. I actually thought it was going to be Alabama because it was going to be the canary in the coal mine because their ICU beds were filling up 3 weeks ago already. But it looks like it's Florida and Arizona. Arizona's numbers have skyrocketed.
But our
as well.
population is
much
15
bigger.
times Arizona's
And
population.
remember, we have many more transportation hubs in Florida, and this is a place where people vacation. So many people who escaped from other places came here to Florida, whether it's the West Coast where they don't wear masks. And I'm talking to people in Sarasota, talking to people in Tampa. Nobody's wearing masks. You know, they haven't been as intense as Broward, where they really push the mask. But even here, we've seen restaurants packed with people with no masks. And,
The mayor of Tampa did just today pass a mask ordinance. I saw that right before I left to come here.
And how long did that take? I mean, we
Yeah.
knew it was the masks. We've
We're
been talking about that here for
in
weeks.
our 14th week of doing this program. So absolutely clear. Well, that's it. As I just indicated, this is part 14. We never dreamed we were going to have 14 episodes of Q's Q&A, coronavirus and the LGBT community. We're here every Thursday night. You can guarantee there's going to be part 15 next Thursday night as we bring all of the viewer questions and the most important medical advice and information from our medical expert, Dr. Howard Grossman. As always, Dr. Grossman, thank you very much for helping continue. We remind you, America and South Florida, Dr. Grossman is a member of our community. I was going to make some inappropriate joke of which letter you represent. And he runs a clinic here in Wilton Manors, Fort Lauderdale, called Midway Medical. And we encourage you to reach out to Dr. Grossman.
They have some very attractive staff there. If you get nervous, that's helped to distract you.
We're talking
That might
about
make you
medicine.
more nervous.
And, yeah,
Men-
right,
men
exactly.
and women.
All right, so thank you very much, Dr. Grossman, for being with us tonight. We are going to end tonight's show with, and the broadcast of Q News tonight, with The Big Finish. These are short story mentions of the LGBTQ news and news with a gay perspective. So here we go. First on Q News tonight's The Big Finish. First story. Kristen Stewart will play Princess Diana in an upcoming film.
I've never been a Kristen Stewart fan, but I did finally watch Underwater the other day. Great movie, but I don't know what was scarier, Cthulhu at the end or Kristen Stewart's acting.
I could totally see this happening. She has great bone structure and already quite looks like Princess Di and could easily fulfill the illusion. But like David, I wonder if she can act like Princess Di.
Princess Di is an LGBT, but specifically gay man's icon. So Kristen Stewart, we're getting ready to destroy you, by the way. This may be the only thing that she could have done to piss off the gays more than being around all of the damn hot shirtless guys in Twilight for half a decade. Gosh, I really hate you and I really want to be you. The Big Finish. Joe Exotic is asking Black Lives Matter for help, citing prison as American slave trade.
You know, good luck to you, but if you can't get out, have your husband Dylan call me.
Girl, you don't even go here. But seriously though, that's called centering. When you take someone else's pain and trauma
Right.
and make it all about you. But I'm in jail and I'm... Shut up.
Shut up. You heard Misty. First he asked Trump. Now he asked Black Lives Matters. At this rate, I expect him to pen a letter to Jesus and mail it to the Pope. And yet, I can't take my eyes off of this train wreck. What is it about him? I don't understand it. The Big Finish. President Trump allegedly sought China's President Xi's aid in his reelection.
You know, I love help from Chinese too, but I'll know I'll be hungry an hour later.
This thought is a little scary. Didn't Russia and China help him get elected the first time? And they're already talking about a rigged election already?
Yeah. Your observation is the same as mine, but a little different bent. Because you know this Sunday is Father's Day. Don't forget, it's Father's Day.
True.
This Sunday. And it is especially a tough time for Donald Trump because you don't realize, since he has to spend twice as much time on this, because he's got two daddies, Xi and Putin. The big finish. A police officer cries because her McMuffin took too long.
You know, I can relate. I was going to bring a McMuffin so I could eat like I did the donut last night. But I also was able to get one. But sorry, Officer Karen. I don't cry on camera about it.
Officer Karen.
Officer Karen. When I first heard this story, I had to Google it to see if this was real. I thought it couldn't. What happened to if it bleeds, it leads? But you know what? In reality, I'm not surprised. These officers have been under intense pressure the last couple days, and let it be a McMuffin when you need comfort food. I'm not surprised.
Misty Eyes just proves what a better human being she is than me, because I'm just going to say it, probably what a lot of you are thinking. I'm just glad this story didn't end up with somebody dead because of the way things have been going. Just saying. The big finish. In No Context Thursday, Boris Johnson, cousin of Donald Trump, needs a better photographer.
Boris's hair, my friends, is blowing in the wind. His hair is just blowing in the wind.
Girl, maybe he takes the convertible to work. But also, have you seen our president's hair? I mean, he's right on trend for this year.
Seriously, if I have a hair day this bad, please kill me.
Oh my Jesus.
Seriously. The big finish. Happy 78th birthday to Paul McCartney.
I'm going to torture our viewership again by singing again.
Oh no.
Maybe I'm amazed by the way that you love me all the time. Maybe I'm afraid of the way I love you. Thank you for all the emotions you've helped us express over the decades by singing much better than I can.
I'm not going to torture you today with a song, but I will say I loved seeing him wear the gay pride flag at his 2016 concert in Berlin when he was supporting the Pulse massacre. And we need allies like you. Happy birthday, Paul.
No singing?
Nope, not today. No. Everybody loves the Beatles. I don't have to remind people of the Beatles.
Okay, well, I'm going to, but I'm going
Go ahead.
I'm going to say the words, not singing the song.
I'm the torture person today.
Kinda, yes, you did. You tortured me.
Go ahead.
I have to begin by saying I wonder what Paul McCartney would say about the world today with his music. His anthem, Back in the USSR, remember? It's a song about, quote, flew in from Miami Beach, BOAC. Didn't get to bed last night. On the way, the paper bag was on my knee. Man, I had a dreadful flight. I'm back in the USSR. Like the song, Trump's from South Florida and a resident here. In the era that we thought was long dead, a new democratic Russia emerged. But then there was a Putin who has dragged the world back into becoming the USSR. McCartney's 40-year-ago prophecy, perhaps? But perhaps even greater is when he penned and sang a spy movie anthem. When you were young and your heart was an open book, you used to say, live and let live. You know you did, you know you did, you know you did. But if this ever-changing world in which we live in makes you give in and cry, say live and let die. McCartney then challenged all of us with his words, what does it matter to ya? When you gotta do your job, you gotta do it well. So you gotta give the other fella hell. Live and let die. Jesus, if that doesn't reflect where we are right now, we gotta give the other fella hell and live and let die. And that date is November 3rd, 2020. Yep. Happy birthday, Paul.
And that is today's news for the LGBTQ community on the world's first daily LGBTQ evening news show.
Remember, if it's important to the LGBTQ community, it's important to Q News Tonight. But you must help us. Click subscribe on YouTube and share this news.
We are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. This is the only source of live LGBTQ news in the entire world. Your community needs your support.
You are not alone. We will get through this crisis.
We are here with you. And this is Q News Tonight.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Al Ferguson, and on behalf of Misty Eyes and David Hopkins. We'll see you daily at 7 p.m. Good night.